And we're back with yet another episode of How Not to Be an Asshole, podcast about politics, dogs, Dan's meth addiction. Todd fixed a fucking clothes dryer. Dan's building's falling down around him, so if you want to visit him, you need to get in right now.
Have you ever wondered whether DMX is a beautiful person or not? Listen on to find out. Hey,
So
Tom,
you know what? It turns out that fucking Dan had someone living in his roof, and he didn't know this whole time, and they've been pissing up there, and it's fucking ruined his ceiling. He has to
Really?
get his whole ceiling replaced
That's,
because it's just got pissel through it.
that's crazy, man. Like,
Fucking out of it.
you know how they,
Sure
you know,
That's one of those stories you wouldn't believe if it wasn't fucking coming to you from a trusted media source.
you know how they always say the worst things happen to the best people.
Oh, shit.
Nice.
Poor
So,
Dan.
listeners might
Trying
have
to live his
noticed.
life.
Our more astute listeners might have noticed that the podcast came late this week because Dom decided to go have a birthday. He also decided to go forget about it, and then tell us late as well. But Dom, you might have noticed I didn't make a big deal of your birthday on the actual day, and I hope you don't feel hurt. But the reason was because I wanted to do something special for you on the podcast.
Here we go.
For the listeners, at the moment, Dom looks like the love heart-eyed emoji. He looks really excited about this. So I wrote you something, Dom, as you've probably guessed by now. Here goes.
All right.
Big Domby. He loves metaphor. His dog and personality, annoying and somehow well-loved. Your body in your car, beaten but determined. Your friends in your clothes, discarded in bus stops until you see potential in their fibre. Pack up your poo-brown car, put the belt on your silly dog lest it bites a child. Pack some hummus, peanut butter, bushweed, a book that looks like it survived a ram raid. Head north, call Vicky. You're an invalid and should be traceable to loved ones. In that case, maybe alert someone else also. Not Christina, she's sleeping in. Chili should appreciate your I Want to Be Your Dog covers playlist. Remember the time we went to the STD clinic together? Are you two together? Yes and no. My, we've grown. I'm sorry for humping you in my sleep when drugs got you high and the world's biggest worry was can computers change millennia dates? Look at me today, teaching little criminals to be feminists. A lot of my growth germinated in your palms. You saw good in parts of me, dead and blind. Encouraged me to punch out enemies and my demons. Thank you, Big Domby.
Oh, thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever written me.
What about your 40th? I reckon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, that was really nice too. It
Yeah.
was quite overwhelming.
Yeah. Happy
At my,
birthday.
thank you. At my 40th, Todd did a speech. Everyone was blown away. I didn't even think he was going to turn up, and then he turned up and he did a speech.
Yo, people who know me know that I'm kind of unreliable for these events. I don't really care about them. But I came through for Dom's 40th. That was also the same time where I tried to get the ducks into your room the next day, wasn't it?
That's right.
Ooh.
So, shout out to all the new patrons.
Yeah, we're up
Keep
to
it
80.
coming.
Up to 80.
fucking patrons. Almost at 100. Once we get to 100, those nudes of Dan are fucking leaking.
Everything's gonna change. It'll be like
Yeah.
we won the Occam.
Those nudes are going to be leaking like Dan's piss-stained ceiling.
I also noticed this week that without us prompting people, a lot of people were sharing the podcast this week. I don't know what happened to prompt
'cause
that.
you
Maybe was it
Boosted
because
the thing.
oh, was it also though because we didn't do a podcast? Is that how it
Oh,
works?
so people were sad.
Yeah, so they were like, "Fuck, what
Also,
are we gonna
patrons,
do?"
if you got a question, get your questions in because we're going to do a bonus episode at some point.
Yeah, we'll get that done this week. Sorry
Well-
we've been slack on that. Dom's been having birthdays and midlife crises.
I've got a job.
Yeah.
Unlike these two.
But yeah, if you can't support the patrons, sharing the podcast is a real good way to help us out as well.
Leave a
And-
review.
Yeah.
Or you can go around to Dan's house and help him fix his ceiling.
Once we have 100 patrons, we're all going to get together and build a pyramid. Finally, I had some positive interactions with people who are diving down the rabbit hole this week.
Really? You've
Two
been
of
going
the-
pretty hard on that.
I have
You're
been.
going down your own rabbit hole.
I've been fighting an invisible war. And straight after I told someone, because someone was like, oh, I'm curious if people responding to this. I was like, nah, they don't really want to engage if you start asking questions that they can't answer. But I had 2 really positive interactions, and one was like, fuck, bro, you snapped me out of it. I was going down that path, which was so cool, and like heaps of respect to that person. And then another one was like, oh, the shit you're posting is making me think about this, which is like more than I could ask for. So I encourage people to just like ask questions in a kind of like non-patronizing way if you can. Which hasn't been my MO the whole time, I have to admit.
All right, should we fucking get on this, whatever the fuck we're doing? This is a great episode. We had a run of great episodes lately.
Yeah, we've really been killing it. We're hitting our stride again.
Fucking professionals. You know, it took us fucking 5 months.
Easy.
All right, episode number 125. Let's go, Dan. Welcome back. A little bit older, a little bit uglier.
We couldn't get another producer, so Dan's back as well.
Look at this, Dan.
We can divulge all this now.
This is what Todd's been itching to get into.
I didn't necessarily like him, but I respected him.
Well, everyone needs jewelry.
He's a maniac.
Further to him crippled.
This is an audio podcast, Dom.
Sure. What do you think, Dan? Okay, today's guest is Essa Ranapiri. They are a poet and a painter. Their first book, Ransack, was nominated for an Ockham and should have probably won, in my humble opinion. They've had an exhibition at Gus Fisher Gallery, which I think is quite flash, and they promise to write until they're dead. Welcome to our stupid podcast.
Hey, Essa.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. Who beat you for the Ockham?
It was controversial.
So it was Helen Rickaby's How to Live was the one that won the Ockham for poetry.
Is that the one about the bees? With the bee?
No,
Someone else.
it's not. It's the one with like the. Oh, it's usually in the room.
Yeah.
But it's got big kind of like golden letters and I think like a Greek type
Is
sticker
it?
or something.
It sounds like New Zealand's answer to Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Let's start trouble, Todd.
I'm determined to start some trouble in the literary scene for Dominic.
That's all right. I think.
I feel like it's maybe the inverse because it's like a feminist kind of text.
Oh, okay. This sounds quite different then.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
There's not really a Jordan Peterson character in the literary scene as far as I know.
Apart from the man himself. Well, he might be out of it now.
Did you talk about Jordan Peterson in your dad's group? So for the listeners, Todd spoke at a dad's group.
Nah, but fuck, I should have brought him up because those guys probably all love them a bit of Jordan B. Peterson because it's kind of like pretty lovely blokes. A lot of them like new parents and struggling with that, so they got a support group to kind of discuss those things. You know, trying to understand breastfeeding and or maybe that's not what they're doing at the men's group. I feel like there's better places to understand breastfeeding. But yeah,
at what point did you tell them that gender was a construct? Do you open with that?
Oh no, I got this real good question from someone. There's a forum on healthy masculinity, so there's lots of different people presenting. Just the guy presenting before me was from a men's group, but I spoke, and then this.
What the fucking thing are you involved in?
Because I didn't speak about having done music, but then this woman asked me something to do with.
Because all the shit all over your face.
Nah, growth and like being a hip hop artist and how embracing feminism, what that journey was like, and I didn't like mention any of this, so she must have known me from elsewhere. It was a real good question, real good opportunity to address that in front of a lot of men.
So Essa, Todd used to be a rapper. Well, we both used to be rappers, and midway through his career, Todd embraced feminism.
That sounds good.
My catalogue takes a sharp turn at some point.
Gets really romantic. Really slow. It was about the time that you embraced Xanax at the same time.
Yeah. So I read I read some of your writing today, Essa, and I'm not a smart guy, but I think like it really struck a chord with me because it seemed to me to be like really, really melancholic, which is like my favorite sort of art. Is that a fair description of your writing? Or did I just only read a couple of pieces?
Well, I think there's that thing where you think you do a lot of different things, but then someone else like looks at your stuff and is like, "That's all like this." So I think melancholy is definitely there often because it's. I don't know. Do you write when you're happy? I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Good point.
No.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Have you always been into poetry?
No. I think it was in high school that I got into poetry. But I wasn't. Yeah, I think I was like really interested in like lyrics and songs before that, but I don't know. I just got I was really bored by the stuff we had to read for for high school, like the stuff we had to study. Yeah. I really didn't like the, you have to like dissect a poem kind of thing.
Is it still like Wordsworth and all that shit, like the same?
I can't actually remember now. Like the only poet I can remember and one that I like don't dislike, so it's not really a good example. But Glenn Colquhoun is someone we studied.
Okay.
But there was definitely a lot of boring stuff.
Was there a particular musician that drove you towards being interested in like the craft of writing? Because I was a rap head, like that was hard to come by. But there were artists who kind of drove me that way.
So there's a band called Me Without You, an American band, that are very like kind of hardcore, post-hardcore, indie rock, spoken word-esque. And he draws a lot on like poets like Rumi, and just a whole lot of other things, I guess, like a lot of like the modernists and stuff. But I was just, I don't know. It was just angsty and wordy, and I liked that.
Yeah,
don't you think it's funny though with that angsty stuff? Because when you don't really know how to write, or when I didn't know how to write, I was like, I'd lean into that so heavily, and now I feel like I've come full circle, and I've almost you come back to it again, because you sort of like you learn to be vulnerable and honest, but in a craft way rather than at first it was just like, here's my emotions, all of them at once.
Yeah, I think like I think I'd feel very embarrassed to show anything I wrote in like high school. Because it's all just very like.
There's so much shit I wrote like 10 years ago. I was actually thinking about deleting all my music off the internet, but I can't tell if that's a stupid thing to do or not.
Have you destroyed it? Both of you? Your old works?
Well, everything's just on the computer.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things written down. I think they're in like folders at my nan's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
you should be aware that someone's gonna want to make a posthumous work.
That would be so bad. There's like fucking Bukowski, like I remember after he died, like every year for a decade later, there was a new poetry book come out, and each one would be worse and worse as they're obviously scraping the bottom of the barrel of the shit he had done.
He's doing well.
I was going through my notes the other day. I was like, because I've been writing heaps of aphorisms lately, so I was going through like my notes to see if I had any good lines for them. And fuck, man, it's so bad. Like I was like, if anyone saw this, like no one would ever read my shit again. It was just so cringy.
What'd you say you were writing? Aphorisms. Yeah,
they're kind of like little sayings or little wisdoms.
What was do you know what the format's called that Nostradamus wrote in? The 4 lines.
4 lines.
Do you know
know.
Nostradamus
I
was a
don't-
poet? He wasn't actually a
Oh, really?
fortune teller. No, it was a book of poetry, and then people like and put interpretations to it and manufactured like false works of his that could be attributed to events that had already occurred. And
Do you know who this is, Essa? Have you heard of Nostradamus?
Yeah, I have heard of Nostradamus.
Because he was a real big deal, in the sort of like 90s. Everyone was like,
Yeah.
what they say? He predicted the Twin Towers or
Yeah. There's a lot of things he predicted. Yeah.
and Y2K and all that shit.
Yeah, JFK.
Before we had the internet to disprove this stuff, you're like, oh, I guess it must be true. It's in a
Man,
book.
How could you I'm not sure of the time Nostradamus was alive. How could you possibly predict Y2K? Like,
What does that even mean? Like, what does that mean for someone to predict that? Like, there's so much context missing.
Yeah. But imagine just like, oh, okay, so in the future that I can't conceive of, people are going to have really advanced things called computers, and they'll be so advanced that they could possibly take over the world, but the millennia is going to change, and they won't be able to change the date from 99.
Yeah, the clocks in them
Yeah,
will cause the downfall of
Also, side note, it won't actually happen.
Yeah, so...
But Dan, you might know this because you own lots of computers. Did it not happen because they fixed it, or did it not happen because it was all shit? Because I read somewhere that they were saying it was because they fixed it.
I
How?
don't think anyone fixed anything.
No, they were just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, they were just going to see if it happened.
It was pretty disappointing, when nothing happened.
I think there was a lot of like businesses that invested a lot of money in making sure something didn't happen, but I think it's unclear whether or not it just didn't happen because it wasn't going to happen, or if it didn't happen because measures were put in place.
Yeah.
But
It's a real lack of foresight, though, Because, I mean,
Yeah.
how long did computers have clocks for? Like 30 years before the millennia? So it was like not, in the 70s or 80s, and someone wasn't like, oh, at some point there's going to be a new fucking millennia. The clock's going to tick over.
But people just inventing new computers like in the 90s and not
Bothering.
overlooking that fact.
Yeah, that's
One-
like 10 years away.
We'll be dead by then.
Computer engineers really live in the now, don't they? Live for the moment.
Well, it's all like made to break and stuff, so that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting, like, I was reading something the other day that was talking about the idea that everyone sort of seems to have this idea that, like if you had, what's the fucking word? Not equality. What's it called when everyone's equal?
Equity.
Nah, there's a better word. Anyway, equality. Just say if the world was equal and there wasn't developing countries and all that. But there's this kind of idea in the West that everyone's going to come to our level when this, like the article's saying this, actually how it would have to work is we would have to sort of meet in the middle somewhere. So you wouldn't be able to get a new iPhone every few years, and, if your laptop broke, that's probably kind of it.
For like a global kind of...
Yeah.
equity.
So you wouldn't have developing countries supplying the West with resources and shit. Like,
Would I have...
Well, you'd
to-
have you just
Okay.
have things that are made to last, right? And then like you add on things to it, or there'd be a lot more ability to repair everything than it just being kind of that part's made by this one company and it will cost like more than the computer to get it. Just like instead of like this constant just throwing out all these new things, because these can be made to last. Like like think of like the old Nokia phones that just didn't die.
Yeah.
I saw Todd throw one of those and hit someone in the head once. Yeah, outside 420.
I don't remember any of this shit.
What do you mean?
Last week when you posted that thing about the art show, I don't remember that.
It was in Melbourne, and we went downstairs. And who were we with? There was
And
someone there who actually wanted to be at the art show. And then, so we're at this art show, and I don't know why we went there because neither me or Todd know anything about art. But and there was this metal pole leaning up against the wall, and Todd, like, I think we were a bit pissed. He knocked it over, and it rolled across the floor. And this guy runs up and goes, "That's art!" And then Todd yelled at him, and then we had to leave. How can you not remember? Oh,
I'm sure you just make shit up now and then like insist that it's true. Heaps of people were asking me because they loved the story, and they're like, "Is that true?" I was like, "I'd like to be able to say it's true, but I'm just not sure." But
I painted you in a much better light than what actually happened. You got quite aggressive with the arts person.
Healthier masculinity, everyone.
Oh no.
Well, to be honest though, like because you know, like I can't believe I don't remember this. So he was like one of those Melbourne people back then with the funny clothes on and stuff. But the way he was behaving, I think, is really, even though he was presenting himself as being kind of like whatever, it's a kind of masculinity that the middle class have, you know what I mean? Which is different again, where it's like very reasonable and like, I can't believe that you'd knock the art over that are left leaning on the wall, you know?
Oh man.
Like trying to make you feel shit about yourself, like.
Inconspicuous Melbourne guy loves that personality trait.
Hard. Melbourne people will trick you, eh?
Yeah. Oh,
you think you're with peers, and then suddenly they'll do some wild shit.
You ever escaped Hamilton and done a stint in Melbourne, Essa?
No, I haven't actually left the country.
Oh,
Like I went to the South Island once.
that's almost like leaving the country.
Yeah, South Island's its own
Especially if you're not white. It's like
Yeah, I think I was really young, and I think I was just really, I was visiting an uncle, and I was just really like focused on trying to finish like homework. I just really didn't want to be there because we had to like eat with proper table manners, and I like grew up eating like food on my lap watching TV, so it's just like a stressful experience.
man, that sounds like Dom's worst nightmare.
Oh, table manners, man. I remember like my parents, the first time they go to a restaurant, and then they were all my mum was getting all weird because we're eating with her hands and shit, and it's like, what is that we eat at home? Like, sorry, Mum, she listens to this.
Hi, Vicky.
It's exciting though, because you know, like with your work, I mean, once the world stops ending, you'll get to travel. And it's kind of the best way
that
that
stops ending.
Yeah, true. But even if it's a post-apocalyptic world, I reckon we'll still be, you know, you just might have to get a boat somewhere.
Oh no, I get seasick real bad.
So, is your acclaim and success in the literary circles quite recent, Essa?
Well, I'd say yes.
When were you nominated for the Ockham this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was this year.
Oh, yeah.
Was it this year? Yeah. Yeah, because the book came out last year. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Because we first met at that event at Verb in Wellington, the sex event.
Well, that sounds like you met in an orgy.
It was like the opposite
sounds a lot more
of
exciting.
an orgy.
Yeah.
It was like a really weird event.
I don't know if you know, Essa, but Dom got nominated for Ockham a few years ago. Look at his life now.
Touche.
I don't know what that means.
It means it's all uphill from here.
Good. Very good.
All your worries are over.
I'll tell you a secret though, Issa. I tell people that I've won all the time, like who aren't in the literary community, and no one's ever said anything.
No, well, they wouldn't, would they?
Well, people usually say, "What's an Ockham?" and then you explain it to them and say that you won it, and they're like, "Oh, cool, man." Fucking out of it.
First thing you should know, it's very prestigious.
Yeah. Fuck that. The money though would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
How much is it?
If you win the novel one, which is what I was nominated for, you get 50k, and I think the poetry one's 10k.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But also you sell a bunch
remember.
of books immediately afterwards.
Maybe I'll write a book about masculinity.
And then I just punched him in the head. The end.
So in my experience with masculinity,
I can't believe you don't remember the art thing.
no, I don't. There's a couple flaws in my, like, you know, society's brand of masculinity that you get taught from a young age you're supposed to exhibit. And my big flaw in that was like a lack of practicality. I can't fix things. I can't use hammers. But earlier this week, I took apart a clothes dryer, pulled the back off, gave it a clean and whatnot, because it sounded like a cement mixer. and I didn't really do anything. I just cleaned it and put it back together, and then put it back, and the sound was gone. So I did fix it, but it was a fluke, really.
Cool.
sounds like a thing I'd do, and it would just be broken. There wouldn't be any sound because it wouldn't turn on.
I didn't touch no wires or anything. Fuck that.
When I was a kid, my dad and his mate took apart the car, the Holden Kingswood we had, and then they put it back together, but there was just a pile of parts left over. And I was like, well, what's all that stuff? And my dad's like, don't fucking worry about it. It's kicking it out of the garage. I was like, I suppose maybe we don't need those things.
That's the extra parts.
Yeah.
My family had Kingswoods as well, and like,
Did it get stolen all the time?
No, I don't think so, but it was a real source of pride for my stepdad. Like, he was real proud of this car. I didn't really understand it. I was like, this just looks like another poor person's car, like our other poor person cars.
I think it was like wasn't it like a Holden, that Holden Ford bullshit thing.
Nah, it wasn't that, because he wasn't that sort of guy. I think it was some sort of, I don't know, working class pride, or...
They're pretty sweet cars.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
But you can steal them, you can open them with like a fork, so I guess you get stolen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I really like about your poetry, Essa, is the way that you kind of incorporate like academic techniques, but it's completely accessible at the same time, which I think Tay Tibble is the other writer that comes to mind who also does that, which I think is really rare, but really important. Like, I've never understood this kind of thing where it's like some people want to write a cryptic crossword and be like, decipher that now. Yeah.
I definitely don't like poetry as puzzle. Like, anything that I've written that isn't like, wow, that I think isn't very clear in terms of meaning is supposed to just be, fun in terms of like how it sounds, or what kind of feeling you get from it. I don't really like if you're gonna, I don't know, maybe just write a cryptic crossword if you're gonna like make it a puzzle. I don't know. But I guess like E. Cummings did stuff like that. It's like puzzles. I don't know. I just tend to just enjoy the sound of poetry. If it's like asking me to solve anything, I don't really bother.
do you have some formal education in writing?
So I did. So I did a Bachelor of Arts in English and History at Waikato, and did a lot of creative writing papers under Tracy Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did the Masters of Creative Writing at the IIML in Wellington at Vic. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of it is just asking. They just ask you to basically hone your own voice, so it's not like learn how to write a sonnet or anything like that. Yeah. Which I'm thankful for, because I don't give a fuck about writing sonnets.
Have you ever done one before?
Yeah.
Fuck,
it's not good.
It's so hard and so thankless when you finish, eh? It's just
well, I wouldn't read this.
What's the structure of a sonnet?
Oh,
I can't remember now. Is it 12? Is it 12 lines? Is it iambic pentameter? Eh? Da 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 da.
Yeah, like the Shakespearean sonnet is iambic pentameter, which is like 10 syllables per line, and then it's like stress, unstress, which is the bit I always just like trick myself whenever I'm doing that, because I'm like, oh, that sounds like it could be stressed, so I'm just gonna read it like that. And then I forgot what the rhyme scheme is. It's like, because it's not. I know there's a rhyming couplet. There's a rhyming couplet at the end.
Yes,
but I think it's like A B or something like that, and then and so on for like a set of.
It was so interesting, like having done rap music, and then I went to uni, because I went to uni when I was 30, so I was quite old, and then realizing that you'd kind of learnt almost everything, but you just didn't know any names for it, or you'd made up your own names for it. And which I kind of suspected might have been the case, but at the same time, like I think when you grow up with not much education, you kind of think that you're stupid. And then I got there and I was like, oh, true.
Right.
I had the same experience with work the other day. I was designing a workshop, or I was modifying one of our workshops. I forget which one it was, which concept or theme it was. But I was looking for some resource material and I was flicking through YouTube videos. And then I found the psychologist talking about the theme I was talking about. And he was saying the exact same things that we've put in our workshop, like explaining the theme the exact same way that we were explaining it to young people. And I was like, holy fuck, it was validating. I was like, this guy's real smart. I dropped out in 4th form. What a
Did you
sucker.
scream, I'm a genius, and slam the laptop down? I don't need to know anymore now.
Yeah, I'll when I do that workshop with young people, I'll enter the room screaming, I'm a genius. I wrote a poem at midnight the other night. Do you guys want to hear it?
Oh, yeah.
We can, do you want to do a,
Oh,
do
yeah.
you want to do a
Just
live?
some
Validating response.
You don't know what I've been through, Essa.
Dom knows, Essa, that I'm not a poet, so that's hence the response. But we could do it. We could do a live critique. Clean your fucking shoes. Have you any self-respect? Have you not read Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life? Sure, he is in a Siberian gulag and addicted to benzos and a vile Vorkus plastic bag human, but clean your fucking shoes. I was angry about...
You've been very angry lately.
I was
Poor
angry
Jordan Peterson.
I was angry about dirty
He's
shoes.
just trying to
And
bring fascism back, and look at you, just making fun of him for your poetry.
I was angry about shoes, and somehow I dragged Jordan into it in his darkest hour as well. That's the sort of person I am.
Do you know about like what happened to him, Essa? Was getting kidnapped and put in the...
Did he get kidnapped?
His daughter kidnapped him.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Eat only meat as well. That's the thing.
See,
It's weird when you like bump into someone that you haven't seen for a while and they start talking to you about how they're on the meat only diet. And then you're like, have you been listening to Joe Rogan a lot lately? And did they get all kind of like defensive? Oh no, sometimes. I mean, he's
So you know the law that he opposed, that was a anti-discrimination law in Canada, and which like this is where his stardom began. By him.
Yeah, I know. I'm very aware. I was in a maybe 300 comment thread on YouTube underneath the video where he talks about that with Sam Harris.
Sam Harris is another piece of shit, eh?
I think you need to rein in your anger there. It's just really weird knowing about him through that and then seeing him like get more and more popular. And it's like, well, I guess, hating trans people doesn't disqualify you from being famous.
Yeah. It would seem you can actually build a career off it, in fact.
Yeah.
But so that law's been in for a few years now. 0 people have been prosecuted under it. And Jordan Peterson got famous by like screaming, "This is the downfall of civilization as we know it." And it was just this tiny adjustment to anti-discrimination laws that included trans people. Like it had like it protected other groups. Yeah, so that's that guy.
Well, if you ever like hear anyone who's actually intelligent critiquing his work, it's just crazy, like the amount of fallacies, even in his like not just in that insanity, but just in his actual academic work that he does. It's like doesn't make any sense, and all that post-Marxist shit he's talking about, and it's like, I think it was Zizek was saying, it's like postmodernists and Marxists, they're kind of opposites. You know what I mean? It's not like and he's. Did you see when he debated Zizek?
Yeah.
That was I did watch that.
It was pretty
weird. It was a lot.
Zizek was too nice to him.
Afterwards, he said he felt really sorry for him.
Mm.
He said he just realised how stupid he was. But there's a thing, that people don't understand, is a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that if you go to university and you keep going and you can just get a fucking master's or get a
Yeah, well, you
PhD.
just write about what you're interested in, and
Yeah.
someone will validate you.
There's this sort of idea that anyone that has any kind of letters after their name has got some kind of grand understanding of the world.
Do you think he just well, my interests largely float around attacking marginalized groups?
Well, he's really into what is it? The like archetypes guy.
Fuck, I know who you mean.
Jung.
Yeah.
Jung. Okay, Jung. Carl Jung. Who, I don't know. I feel like there's like a lot of like interesting stuff you can take from that, but like applying it to like, sociology isn't really the way to do things. I don't know.
If he'd be in the New Conservative Party, if he was a New Zealander.
I don't know. I feel like he's more like libertarian.
Pretty conservative kind of Christian values and Handmaid's Tale utopia sort of guy, I think.
Maybe. But don't you think that they sort of like, I don't know, just his association of Joe Rogan and Sam Harris and those people who are kind of like, yeah, you can do whatever you want as long as, you're not this, and this, and this kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
If you're a rich white man, you should be able to fucking shoot guns and
Yeah, sure.
kill animals.
I feel like maybe he'd be in the New Conservatives, but there'd be like this weird, like half-hearted attempt at distancing himself from them while he was also being a part of them.
Well, that's what he currently does with the alt-right, right?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm not a part of the alt-right. It's like, that's your whole audience, dude. Like,
No, he has that weird speech where he talks about like Hitler not wanting to win.
oh,
Okay.
his
Really
stuff
scary.
his stuff around Hitler and the Holocaust is really fucking weird.
I haven't heard any of this stuff.
Oh, so he kind of... There's a lot of stuff he does about it, but he talks kind of around it in this way that's not like... He's careful, but it seems very apologist of the Nazis.
Yeah. Well, like the thing that stuck out to me was this whole idea that Hitler didn't want to win the war. He just wanted to bring more chaos into the world. Like he was some like death cultist or something, which is just like a really strange view to have. He just wasn't a very good, he just wasn't a very good tactician. He wasn't very good at many things.
Fucking drug addict.
Just like giving him the benefit of the doubt that like everything he was doing was some weird like intentional plan.
Yeah.
He has to be like this brilliant kind of like antagonist or
Do you
something.
think like a lot of people, a lot of neo-Nazis and their sort of adjacent friends are like, what they really like is the uniforms and the formations and the architecture? You know what I mean? It's all sort of like an aesthetic thing as much as anything else.
Well, if you look at who it attracts, lost young white men, right? And so I think the same way it can attract, or the military can attract people, or the kid who fucking shot those protesters today, or yesterday, who wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
And fuck, what does that say about policing when a young man has role models that are cops and he's like, oh, the best way I can assimilate with them is fucking murdering people? Like, if you've seen the footage of him walking around with the gun, it's so obvious what he's seeking. Like, he wants to be a part of that. And he, like, traveled from out of town to do that. I think it's really lost people who want to belong to something. And I guess, like, those symbols, like a uniform, very powerful symbols of belonging, right?
Well, it's like the like propaganda forgot who did those films. Anyway, the propaganda films for the Nazis have been like extremely potent and.
Was it Goring? Goring?
Pardon?
Was it Goring? Goring? Oh fuck.
No,
I
it's-
know who you mean.
Nazi
Yeah.
Nazi
Goebbels?
Goring.
Goebbels?
Nazi Goring.
No,
Jesus.
Sorry.
cut that. Can you cut that out, Dan?
It just like like pop culture has carried the idealized image of like the Nazis through like the years and years since. Like just thinking about like Star Wars and the Empire, like that's like an idealized view of what like the Nazis wanted to kind of put out into the world. Like even all the weird stuff I learned in high school, which was just like Nazi propaganda that still hasn't been washed out.
Like what?
Like Hitler being like a capable leader.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He had some flaws. We actually had to write about like the sexual attraction of Hitler in year 11.
What?
Where the fuck did you go to school, man? What the hell?
Was a Muay Thai.
Can you elaborate?
So we had to we watched this. So we watched this documentary. I think it was called "The Fatal Attraction of Hitler," and it was kind of like this idea that he was like a sex symbol because of how powerful he was to like the German people, and that was like looking at how a people could fall in love with him. Like it was kind of interesting, but I don't think I would show that to like teenagers because it's such like a fraught and complicated thing to get your head around. But no one wanted to write that. No one wanted to write about Hitler, so we didn't have to do it.
Holy shit.
We fucking studied Nazi Germany every year that I was in high school. We'd do something else about Germany and Nazis and World War II, and it was just like, fuck, I'm just sick of this shit. Like, there's other historical events.
Did you get any history about the country you were living in, or?
When I went to Metro, we did, but not at Springs so
okay.
much.
Yeah.
But Metro, we went around. We watched Michael King, the Māori Wars doco, and then we went around to all the sites around here and down in Waikato.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh.
The only history that I recall from high school was learning the history of Ireland, and so I thought Irish. I respected Irish people until I became an adult and I met like Irish backpackers.
Oh, that's why you hate Irish people, don't you? I forgot about this weird. You and Mish, you just like are racist against Irish people.
Nah, I actually have some Irish friends that I really love.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. But then this been further embedded in me by Conor McGregor, who's just kind of like this avatar of the Irish human being, loud, obnoxious, drug addict.
That's all right. He's just enjoying himself.
Just trying to fight everyone in sight. And
Did you see that Greens wanted to open their private school, the Greens High School, whatever it is?
I have some thoughts on this. Yeah.
It looks like you have some thoughts, do you? Essa?
I don't think I have much thoughts. Just that it's bad, and I don't understand why it's happening. Except James Shaw, I guess, trying to push his green capitalism thing.
It seems so crazy that he's still around. Like, because it seems like my whole life people have been saying we should get rid of James Shaw and maybe the Greens can be actually progressive.
It's funny to have these conversations because we're a very green friendly podcast.
We've had three green politicians on here. Oh, more. 4, maybe 5.
And
Anyway, we've had a lot of Greens on here.
I guess they have some incredible people in the ranks, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Ricardo, who we had on a few episodes ago, he actually came out and said, I don't agree with this, and as a politician, I can say what I want, and this is what I think. And
yeah. I think there's more. That's a good thing about the Green Party is they do seem to have more latitude to be able to express personal politics than you can in other parties. But to this specific issue of this school, so it's in Taranaki, like where I'm from and where I've worked with young people and somewhat with the education sector. And so in Taranaki, and I went through this as well as a young person there, I was kicked out of 2 high schools, and I couldn't get into the alternative education school. I can't remember why. I just think they didn't want me because I was setting everything on fire.
Sunglasses you used to wear when you were a kid.
Yeah, maybe. But having worked there as an adult in that sector, I would go into alternative education schools where there was one in particular that I think of. It was like a fucking shed. It was out the back of these shops next to the like bottle store. And you go in there, the environment's so oppressive, and there's like 6 students in there, like all these places that are under-resourced, majority Māori, and they have one tutor who's not a trained educator, who is on top of trying to educate these kids who have learning difficulties, like real specialist needs. The tutor is also like their social worker, their guardian sometimes, their cook, just like fulfilling all these roles. They're so under-resourced. So I had that experience. And then I went into the mental health school in Taranaki. And it's in this beautiful building. And like they have like just they're staffed. That stands out immediately, and like really well resourced computers everywhere, just full of books and stuff, and it's this beautiful environment, and you can guess what color the children are in the mental and the mental health school. But this is like the places that need it most are desperately underfunded, and they're putting like how much money is it into this green school?
11 million, was it?
Yeah, and then once it's established, people have to pay something like 40,000 a year.
Yeah, 46,000.
So it's obvious who can access this fucking bourgeoisie, like environmental green school. What the fuck? It's insane.
I think it's also saying that it's further making environmentalism as a sort of like it's just neoliberalizing it further, right? It's sort of it's pretty heartbreaking.
Like it's, imagine like just rich people like, yeah, our kids go to the green school.
Well, imagine if they gave like a fucking tenth for that money to Atawhai or one of those other youth organisations to start or something, it'd just be like life-changing. Like you'd literally save, like, well, not save, but change, hundreds of people's lives overnight.
I was talking to people about starting an alt-ed classroom in Taranaki. It was like a plan I conceived. And so I'd done some numbers on this. And the money they're pouring into that school could fund my alternative education classroom that would change young people's lives who, once they disengage from education, are headed to jail. That's the pipeline. And it would cost so little compared to that fucking school.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
You got any thoughts on it, Dan?
Nope.
Man,
Thanks.
you're not being chatty today. Normally Dan's just talking non-stop. You can't get a word in.
Thanks for your input, Dan.
It's all right.
Has anyone watched, I don't think I'm going to get any yeses here, but I think a series just came out called Rough Riders something, but it's the story of Rough Riders, the
What,
record
the rap
label.
group?
Yeah, and holy shit, like, did anyone know that DMX is like a supremely beautiful human being?
No.
No.
So
I saw him do that when he sang the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Is that what you mean?
That's kind of
Like-
Have you
beautiful.
seen that, Essa?
No, I haven't.
You've got to watch it. After this, you've got to watch it. It's it brings so much joy to your heart.
He's
So-
saying he is now, or he always has been.
I think he always has been, because they show interview footage over the years with him, and there's something that remains in him through all these years, from like the early days till now, and it's this acute emotional intelligence and self-awareness, and like his upbringing was real hard, really rough, and the way he speaks about it and the insight he gives into his life is just one of those people who can talk about adversity in this real beautiful way. And like he's fraught with like his you can tell his mental health is ravaged by his drug addiction and stuff. But if you've ever met like an older person who's been an addict, but they retain like this dignity somehow and like this wisdom, and I was like so shocked by it because I didn't expect that at all, because you know I just had this very like outside view of DMX, but it really surprised me.
What's the song?
It's called, the series just started and it's called Rough Riders something or other. It's quite
I'll
good.
check it out.
Yeah, it's really
That's
good.
something.
I
It's
just
just like, what the fuck am I doing here?
yeah, sorry.
And then it has talked about fucking 90s hip hop for ages and clearly drunk.
I just want people to know DMX is beautiful.
Ask me how to write a sonnet. Have you seen him doing the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I thought everyone had seen
What's it from? I've seen the clip, but what?
It's just him on some TV show. I think he might be high, is the vibe I got.
How do we feel about the trial of the fucking terrorist, the sentencing today, and I guess the last few days? Any thoughts?
Those victim statements were pretty insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. What about, because I guess like in my work, I have to firmly believe in this idea of redemption. So this quite challenging to the kind of views I've built up and held. Because I don't think there is any redemption for this guy, right? Like,
Well, yeah, like what would that look like?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he ruined so many people's lives, not just the people people he killed. Like there'd be hundreds and thousands of people outside of that, and then also as a political act to embolden other, white supremacists, fascists. Like what do you do with that when it's like an attack on,
Yeah.
it's this clear attack rather than someone who, maybe like in another context committed some violent crime and was like thoughtless or, in the moment, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess like the sentencing, like life without parole, it's a rare case where I support the full brunt of the law being brought upon someone. But then also, does it still kind of feel like that it doesn't have any meaning as well? Like what?
I don't think there's anything. I mean, what could they possibly do that would even begin to sort of
Yeah.
feel like enough?
Well, it's like the I think outside of his sentencing, like the important work is in stamping out, Nazism in New Zealand. Well, New Zealand.
Yeah. That is the thing that struck me. The thing that was important and powerful with the victim impact statements this week. And I think so people sharing their pain is also people sharing their humanity with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's real special and really important to remember. And I'm sure we've all been around conversations where people want to have a discussion with you that involves their critique of Islam, and their critique of Islam also involves no cultural experience of Islam at the same time. And I think that's the thing I took from those victim impact statements was next time some cunt wants to tell me what's wrong with Islam, I don't want to hear it, because it is it is just dehumanizing those people that shared their humanity with us. And it's the sort of shit, like as subtle as it is, that leads to the sort of violence that we see.
I would not be surprised at all if that dude, that psychopath, got part of his radicalization probably started from people like Sam Harris, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of logical, you know, it's presented as logical, kind of like that bigotry under that guise of,
There's like a historical view of the Middle East that paints all Muslim people with the same brush. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, well, it's just, I'm just looking at this objectively. Like, I don't like Christianity either. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. The real telltale sign, though, of when those are bad faith critiques is people who only want to talk about equality issues in the Middle Eastern world, but have never mentioned them in the country, or never talk about the ones that exist in the country they live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dead giveaway.
It's pretty, I don't know, can't think of anything to say about it, really. It's just fucked.
It really took a turn. An interesting, so the son of the father who spoke quite sternly to the
one that gave him the fingers that everyone's been shooting.
Yeah. Do you think, this is something I've been pondering, so you know how he wore a Warriors jersey?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a third middle finger to all the people that are like, they don't want to assimilate, they hate our culture, or was it just he likes a Warriors jersey? I was kind of hoping it was.
He looked like someone that might play league.
Yeah.
Been to a bit of league. He's got a big dude.
Court though, like you don't generally just casually wear a league jersey to court.
True.
I was hoping it was symbolic.
I feel like it would be, but also I don't know. I feel like there's like I don't know. A part of me feels weird about how much that image has been shared, like the kind of like memification of people's pain, especially.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And like I really I don't know. It was really brave for him to say what he said, and like really believe in that kind of like a lot of strength on display in that. But then it just feels like like I don't know, this weird like clapping him on the back kind of response to this thing.
Yeah. People should read. Tina Nata wrote some stuff on Twitter about him today, and to do with mana and the concept of what is it? Is it io? I-I-O?
Is that in regards to like the Atua?
I think so. I'm way out of my depth here, but people should have a look at Tina's Twitter because someone I think someone like kind of laid out a criticism of his response, which is just fucking insane to think of doing.
Was that the one where it was like he was disrespecting the court and the crown or something?
Yes, yeah.
It's like,
yeah, that one.
Yeah, I saw that.
and so they said that was an indictment on his lack of mana, but then Tina responded to that with this incredible explanation of what mana means. And I mean, like, to me, mana's kind of been this concept that's like I would never be able to pin it down, and there's like many good reasons for that, but like fuck, the way she explained it and the way it works was holy shit. It was incredible.
She's pretty amazing, eh?
Yeah, I'd recommend people go and seek that out and find it because it was I could probably find it myself.
Did it? While Todd's doing that, did Essa, did you see about that storm that's coming up on Louisiana? Like it might have even hit already. They're saying it's like an unsurvivable storm. Like if you're in the path of the storm, you're going to die, kind of thing. And it's like Just sounds like so crazy. And I watched it was like a video of a weather reporter just saying it. So yeah, there's an unsurvivable storm. And anyway, over here, and there's just like, what the fuck?
What in New Zealand?
No, in Louisiana.
No.
Ah,
They're saying that the water, like the whole, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how big the state is, but it looks like a massive part of it will just be underwater when the cyclone hits it.
I got tricked by one of those meteor articles the other day. You know how they come around every couple of years?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Meteor headed towards Earth, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you start reading the article, and a couple sentences in just says that like it's not actually going to hit Earth, which is a relief.
But there was that one a few years ago that only just missed, eh? Do you remember that?
Nah.
And then everyone was like, well, why didn't you bring it up at the... Because it missed, and then they brought it up. And then, why didn't you bring it up at the time? And they're like, oh, we didn't want to worry you guys. So, thanks.
Yeah, there was something like that the other, like this year as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, yeah. Like, how do you respond to a meteor if it's going to hit? Like, what's the process?
I might go around
just act like a dinosaur, throw yourself on the ground, I don't know.
Have one last argument with Dan about losing my rap album in 2006.
Settle it.
Get to the bottom of this.
I can't find this response of Tina's to the thing, which is fucking annoying.
That's all right.
Never mind. People can go look it up for themselves because I'll probably fuck it up anyhow.
We should wrap this up anyway. I got to go to my mum's for dinner. I'm having a birthday dinner.
Cool.
Hey, thanks heaps for coming on, Essa.
Yeah, I found it.
That's good.
I found it today, but where can people locate your writing?
What's it?
At your grandma's house.
Not that writing. I guess it's like, I guess my book is on the Victoria University Press website, and I have all of my like online stuff linked on my my WordPress, which I think is www.essawrites.wordpress.co.nz.
Nice.
I think. I don't know.
There's physicals of your book, obviously?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Okay.
a physical copy and also e-book version of it as well.
I'm gonna order it this afternoon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've got a copy of it.
Yeah.
We can read it together, Todd.
I'll put it on my bookshelf. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it heaps.
And hopefully we'll get to do our show together soon.
Yeah.
Nick
Hope
was
so.
saying like maybe November.
Maybe you should bring our Occam Luminaries show to Melbourne.
That's a good idea. Once we
2 Occam winners.
yeah.
No one will ever know.
Nah. You get a fucking stern email from the Occam people.
I can MC it, so I can introduce you that way, and like, what's gonna come back on me? Nothing. I'll fucking fight the whole literary community if they got a problem.
There's your title, Dan.
Can find this, yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks heaps, Essa.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a
Nice
good
to
one.
meet you. You too.
Catch you later.